Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Cadence Independent Media Production. We are talking today about something that has come up in forums a lot, we've been asked about a lot. It is the idea of a coated snare side head. Is it good? Is it going to work? Does such a thing even exist? Well, we're going to find out. Okay, let's get out in front of this real quick. There's no coated snare side head on the market anywhere. There's nothing in the normal thickness range really that we use, which is 3 mil, sometimes 2 mil, 5 at the most. There isn't one to buy, so this is very much an experiment, a thought experiment that we're doing here. We got ourselves a 14-inch Reso 7 from Evans, which is basically the closest we can get. It is properly coated. It's 7 mil, so it's a little beefier than anything that would be classified as a snare side head, but this is as close as we can get. And we are just as curious as everybody else about what this is going to do to the Supraphonic that we have here, which everybody's heard a lot. It's in most of the videos. We know what it sounds like. We hear a lot of comments about, oh, it's impossible to make a Supraphonic sound bad. Yeah, it's hard, but it can be done. Now, today is one of those videos that has more playing in it than we utilized here, kind of a lot more. That's going to be over on the Patreon, along with our super exciting cymbal series that we're just kind of taking off into right now. That's going to be a long journey. We're super excited about it. It's going to live over there as well. Follow the link below if you haven't already. Check out the things we have going on over there. And thanks so much to our patrons for making this possible, keeping us going. Without any further ado, let's jump right in. Coated G12 on the top, Reso 7 coated on the bottom, and normal 24-strand Pure Sound Custom Pros. All right, let's talk about the tuning, first of all, before we talk about the sound. This is a beefier head than you would normally put on the bottom of a snare drum, and it has the coating, which is adding even more mass. So trying to tune it like a snare side head where you're thinking about snare response and things like that, and throatiness and sensitivity and all those things, really difficult. The way it's tuned right now was basically as good as I could get it in terms of wanting the thing to behave like a snare drum. It's part of the way there. It does sound like it is a snare drum. It reminds me of, I was saying earlier, like high school band where there's like a bunch of snare drums in the room that have really been through a lot and you hit them and there's no crispiness in the snare wires. It's super boxy. It's not very dynamic, particularly at low dynamics. It's not really doing a whole lot. But it functions, so it is a snare drum. I had to tune the Reso 7 ridiculously high to get the drum to not choke out in a low kind of way, where the wires just sounded like they were flapping against a pillow. But then conversely, it's starting to choke out in the other direction where there's not a lot of depth in the hits. It doesn't feel good to hit it really. It's soaking up a lot of the energy when I hit the drum, so doing things like rolls and like little doubles and stuff, super difficult. It feels almost like playing a rack tom or something like that. Or something tuned lower than this is tuned. What I want out of a snare drum is not really happening, but it is kind of fun to flip it over and try it out for like some sampley stuff, some hip hop kind of beats. Or some jungle and drum and bass kind of things. We've experimented with this a little bit here. I actually wasn't here for it, but it's a functional special effect sound, and not having a batter head on the drum and having it flipped over to do this does change it. So, you know, this is one way that you could utilize it. But to be fair, it's not working because it's a coated head. It's just working because we're playing on the other side of the snare drum, and it's a little bit beefier, so you're going to have a little more durability. Step 2, I'm going to leave the batter alone. I'm going to swap out for a normal 3mm Snare Side head. I'm not going to aim for tuning it to where the previous head was tuned because it's a totally different animal. We're talking about more than double the mass. So without considering that before, I'm just going to tune the drum up the way that I would normally use it with the batter tuned like this and just leave the batter alone. First noticeable thing, which surprised us too, the whole drum sounds significantly lower. The overtones, the fundamental, everything significantly lower. Now, if you've been with us through our what happens when you put two heads on a drum and try to tune it to a pitch, multiple experiments, you'll know that the pitch of the batter and the pitch of the Reso together make a third pitch, which is the fundamental that you hear when you hit the drum. So right away, since I didn't mess with the batter head, that means that there is lower stuff getting generated from the snare side into the whole apparatus, giving us a lower sound. When you're dealing with mass of a snare drum head or any other kind of head, there's a lot of physics involved. This is behaving really differently at where I would normally tension it, where it's giving me what I'm looking for like a mid-tuned kind of sound. The big thing going on here is that I'm getting the sensitivity in the lower volume stuff, and I'm also getting a much wider open sound when I hit it super hard. Now, step 3, say we were happy with the pitch of the drum before, and we want to get the pitch that we had with the Reso 7, but we want it to have the snare wire sound, the crispiness, all of that articulation. We're going to have to jack up the snare side head a bunch, because again, I didn't change the batter, so I'm not going to change it now. So now the drum is in the range that it was initially with the Reso 7. Sounds completely different, sounds more open, has overtones, some wild ones too, which is something that happens when you really crank the snare side. It's not choked, it's not completely bottomed out, but it's very, very tight now to get it up there. I had to turn the drum key a lot more than I expected to get it up to where it was gonna go. It feels very tight, but it's still giving us response. It feels good to hit. A little more articulate. The whole thing is just kind of higher. When people are wondering about the coated snare side head, it varies from people imagining that it's going to dry the drum out or focus it or give them crispier snare articulation or give them a vintage sound, because we do coated Resos on toms sometimes when we're trying to get an older sort of sound or a warmer sort of sound. For those of you that don't know, Ben behind the camera used to work at D'Addario, specifically at Evans. He has played a 3mm coated snare side head, and according to him, it really just choked the drum out a little bit, didn't change the snare response that much, and all around didn't offer anything positive toward getting your snare drum to sound good. Obviously, a 7mm snare side head of any sort is going to be kind of a wild animal compared to what we're expecting, but Ben has played the imagined version of this thing, and he designed heads for a living for a while, and so he knows what he's talking about. Now for the very crucial back-to-back comparison. There really is a huge difference here, and I'm excited to hear them back-to-back too. All right, so we can see that a lot changed regardless of whether we tuned it in my sort of comfort range or whether we tried to match the original pitch of the Reso 7 tuning. We have experienced a 5mm snare side head recently and had good results with that. I think that's probably the ceiling that I would set for myself if I was thinking about things to put on the bottom of a snare drum, and that's kind of a special occasion situation. It seems to work really well with thicker batter heads where you need more mass underneath to help move the more mass on the batter side. I'm going to stick with the 3mm. I'm not going to sweat the coating, but hopefully at least this gave you an idea of what could happen, what might happen, and save you the trouble of doing it yourself. That said, if you love it, it is a sound, no judgment at all. I mean, everybody likes different stuff. I found it to be challenging to play regardless. All right, thank you so much for sitting through all of this with us. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell below so you get all of our new video notifications. We're still doing Tuesday tutorials every week, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, along with Snare Spotlights, exclusive Patreon content such as the Cymbals series, which you can access if you follow the link below this video. Learn about all of that stuff in addition to extra playing footage, anecdotes, all sorts of things like that. Thanks so much to the patrons for keeping us going here. You really are the lifeblood of the series right now, and we really appreciate it. It's a beautiful community, and it's been super inspiring. And led us to do things like we did today, just by virtue of people saying, what if? You know, we're always down for a what if. If you are having thoughts about coated snare side heads that we didn't cover here, or you have experience trying to do something like this, let us know, along with any other what ifs you may have for us, and we'll get to them as fast as we can.